My Bible reading partner and I are in the book of Genesis. And if you don't have someone who is kind of an accountability partner, I would highly recommend it. What we do is we each read the same chapter of the Bible each day, and then we just communicate by text of some things that stood out to us or questions that we have. And it just helps, I think, both of us to stay on track with our Bible reading. It's not a fast method of going through the Bible, but I feel like we're kind of getting through it in a thorough manner. So we've already done the entire New Testament, except for we're still working on Revelation, but we added in Genesis as well. And it's really been a great experience for me. But anyway, we are in Genesis, in the part of the book that talks about the story of Joseph. And if you aren't familiar with the story of Joseph, you find it kind of starting around chapter 37. And Joseph was the son of Jacob, and Jacob had 12 sons. Eventually, Joseph was number 11. And Joseph was the son of the wife that Jacob loved. He had 2 wives, and he had a couple of their servants that he also had children with. But the mother of Joseph was the woman that he truly loved. And I think partly because of that, Joseph was his favorite son, and he did not hide his favoritism. In fact, he didn't hide his favoritism, just as his parents had not hidden their favoritism. Jacob was his mom's favorite, and his brother Esau was his dad's favorite. And so this terrible tradition is being passed down in the family. Well, Joseph's brothers aren't too thrilled by the fact that their father so unabashedly favors him, and they plot to kill Joseph. And then one of them intervenes, and instead of killing him, they throw him in a pit, and then they sell him into slavery. But they've kind of got to explain to his dad what happened to him. And they can't go home and say, well, we threw him in a pit and then we sold him into slavery. That probably wouldn't go over very well. So they took the coat, this many-colored coat that his father had made special for him, and they kind of tore it, and they put animal blood on it, and they went to their father and presented it as something really bad must have happened to Joseph, because look at his coat. And his father went into this deep mourning. And in chapter 37 and verse 34, it says, "So Jacob tore his clothes and put sackcloth on his loins and mourned for his son many days. Then all his sons and all his daughters arose to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. And he said, 'Surely I will go down to Sheol in mourning for my son.' So his father wept for him." And as my partner and I were reading this chapter, what really stuck out to me was that phrase, "Then all his sons and all his daughters arose to comfort him." So in other words, these sons that knew very well that, or at least had a good reason to believe that their brother was not in fact dead, killed by an animal, but was somewhere, having been sold into slavery. They, having lied to their dad, presented false evidence, then tried to comfort him. And when I was thinking about that, as I've pondered it before, I thought, what depravity that you could see your father in this deep mourning and still persist with this false story that his son is dead. And this false story, in fact, went on for many, many years. When we look at that, we think, how could somebody do that? And it might be the same thing we think when we think, how could somebody shoot into a chapel full of children? How could somebody shoot somebody that they disagreed with politically? How could somebody pull up to a school and invade a classroom? You know, we read daily of man's inhumanity to man. But as believers, this really shouldn't surprise us, because Jeremiah 17:9 says, "The heart is deceitful above all else and desperately wicked or sick. Who can know it or who can understand it? And the good news is there is someone who can understand the desperate wickedness of our hearts. And that is our Heavenly Father, who made a way for our heart, our wicked hearts, to be cleansed by the blood of his Son through his death and resurrection. And we can rejoice in the fact that we can know a heart that is changed, a heart that is not depraved. We still do wrong things, but we have this new heart as we've become new creations. So I would encourage you today, when you see news headlines that just really make you sick in your stomach, first of all, pray for those people who are involved. And second of all, let it remind us that apart from Christ, we're all capable of horrible things. And we can thank him that we know him, and then we can share that good news with others.